So here we're going to talk about the Pythagorean Theorem and how to use it. Pythagorean Theorem, if you remember back, way back probably to even middle school, they talked about this. Pythagorean Theorem, you deal with a right triangle. If you look at the screen here, you can see if you have a right triangle, the right triangle, you got, remember right here, right angle as a part of that right triangle. The side opposite that right angle is called the hypotenuse. The other two sides, the sides that are connected to the right angle, are called the legs. So you have two legs and you have a hypotenuse. That's how you can at least identify what the parts are. Why is that important? Because the Pythagorean theorem technically goes the third side squared is equal to, or the hypotenuse squared is equal to both legs squared and then added together. And let's just look at that. So when it's squared, we're basically saying that here, this box, remember the area of a square is side squared. So the area of that box is equal to the area of these two boxes added together. So the area is equal to, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared is where that Pythagorean theorem comes from. So the square formed from this leg plus the square formed from this leg is equal to the square formed from the hypotenuse. So that's really what the Pythagorean theorem is. It allows you to find a third side if you know two of the sides. So if I know a leg and a hypotenuse, I should be able to find the other leg. If I know both legs, I should be able to find the hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the drawing here. So if I need to find the unknown third side of a right triangle given two legs, remember I'm going to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this case, this is 4 and 8. So 4 squared plus 8 squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. Again, you can identify the legs by looking at which are the sides that are attached to that right angle. And so 4 squared plus 8 squared is equal to c squared. Remember, we square these first before adding them together. So 16 and 64 is 80. So 80 is equal to c squared, or the hypotenuse squared. Now, in algebra, when you solve this, what you need to do is you need to find the square root of both sides. Well, the square root of c squared is just c. So the square root of hypotenuse squared is the hypotenuse. And then the square root of 80, if you put it on a calculator, it may just give you square root of 80. So make sure that, I don't know if I can show this on here, on this little yellow calculator here, okay? In the bottom corner next to the enter button right above it, there's a little toggle switch, this arrow, and that will toggle it between square root and giving you a specific decimal for it. Okay. Now what happens if you're given a leg and a hypotenuse? It's a little bit different because just the steps you have to go through. So in this case, you know one leg, we'll just call it A. Doesn't make a difference if it's A or B. But a squared, so 5.3 squared plus b squared is equal to 7.2 squared. All right, so what do? So you square both of those, you get 28.09 plus b squared is equal to 51.84. Then you have to subtract the 28.09 from both sides, and you get b squared equals 23.75. Take the square root of both sides, you get b is equal to 4.87. All right, so let's see how this is going to work over here on IXL. So what is the length of hypotenuse? So they're giving us two legs and they want us to find the hypotenuse. So 18 and 24 are the two legs. So let's go to the, let's go here. Again, we're going to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay. So I'm going to actually do a drawing here. I can find that. Here it is. Okay, so I've got my triangle. It is over here. All right, so that triangle, let me move some of this stuff out of the way, is 18 and 24 and then C. So I've got, this is an awful right triangle. That's the best I can do using Google Docs. So if I can match it up, so this is going to be 18 and then 24. All right. So if I use the formula, again, a squared plus b squared, so that would be 18 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. I don't know why my equals will not work. There it is. So then I just have to go to my calculator and do the math. So 18 squared on your calculator, 18 squared is 324. Excuse my handwriting on the computer. Plus, now 24 squared is 576. This is equal to c squared. Now you're going to add those two together. This which is 900, and then you got to take the square root of that. So on my calculator, I got to press second x squared, put in 900, and I get 30. So 30 should be my answer. So 30 meters. What's the length of hypotenuse? Again, this is the same deal. They're just giving us the two legs and want to find the hypotenuse. So let's look at the next level. What's the length of hypotenuse and necessary around to the nearest tenth? Remember, the tenth is one spot past the decimal point. So in this case, I'd be doing 2 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. So it's 4 plus 64, which is 68. And then we have to take the square root of 68. And I get 2 times the square root of 17, so I got to change it to a decimal. It gives me 8.24, which would give me 8.2. Now they're giving us a scenario that we have to draw out. And what I do is I just go ahead and I draw it. I'm going to try to do a drawing over here. Let's see if I can just do a new drawing so I don't have to try to get rid of all that stuff. A gopher has dug holes in opposite corners of a rectangular yard. So the yard has got to be a rectangle, if they're going to let me do that. So let's just do let's just put it up here. So here's my terrible rectangle, which is the best I can do on a computer. It wouldn't be that much better on a whiteboard in the classroom, but for right now, that's what I got. So it's at the opposite ends of the rectangular yard. If the yard is 7 meters by 7 meters, how far would the gopher have to run to get from one of its holes to the other, if necessary, around to the nearest tenth? So it's interesting because they're getting a 7 by 7. That's more of a square to me, but I'll go ahead and put it in. So this is 7, and this is 7. Again, the picture's not very accurate. And let's just say the holes go like this. So we're just making a diagonal here. So if I wanted to do that diagonal, so they're giving us the two legs, 7 and 7. So I'm going to do 7 squared plus 7 squared, and I get 98. I had to take the square root of that. And I get the decimal 9.899. So I'm going to make that 9.9. Okay, so that'll be your best bet, is go ahead and draw it out and then do the calculation. If you just remember, here again, 9 squared plus a squared equals 10 squared. And then you're going to have to subtract the 9 squared or the 81 from both sides. and then take the square root, and then that'll give you the answer. All right, good luck.